following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
All right. We are 1 month away, a little over 1 month away from the NHL trade deadline. And guess what? History has told us that the Canucks might make a trade sooner rather than later. I'm going to get my tongue untied on the other side here on Locked On Canucks.
Trevor, man, drink some coffee, dude. Come on, man, it's a big show. Let's do this.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host here of Locked On Canucks, and also a part-time credentialed media member for Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into the show, we got to thank you. Yeah, I'm talking to you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. It is your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe or follow us for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Before we get into it, I also got to shout out Sleeper. Go download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. You know what? Jim Rutherford might have been ahead of the trend because, back in the past, maybe 10, 15 years ago, Kyle and I, we'd be skipping school, watching trade deadline. I don't know if that really happens anymore because a lot of GMs get their work done ahead of time. Jim Rutherford was ahead of the trend there. So coming up today's episode, we're going to talk about who might the Canucks be eyeing. Again, we've covered that on a few episodes, but also looking at what Rutherford has done in the past in terms of his trade deadline activity and the trades that he's made before the deadline in the seasons where his teams won the Stanley Cup in particular. Also want to talk about the Canucks' best forward trios of all time. Pettersson, Miller, and Boeser absolutely tearing it up, but how do they compare to the forward trios from the past? And then finally, going to do a little pregame prophecy here on Locked On Canucks. But before we do any of that, let me introduce my co-host, Kyle Bowen. What's going on, brother?
It's the morning, man. Another morning at home, a sloppy start. Okay, we're all over the place. We haven't even changed the background for today's episode. It is what it is, though. Kyle Bowen, Trevor Beggs, talking everything Vancouver Canucks. Shout out to the people watching this right now. Shout out to everyone listening to this also on those podcasts and platforms. Yo, if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star review. And if you don't, tell the truth. It is what it is. A couple more 1-star reviews coming in for us on the Spotify side. It is what it is. People don't like my voice, and I can't change, man. I can't change. It is what it is. It doesn't change the fact that we're going to be here every day, bro, till the end of time, a.k.a. especially till the end of June, because, man, oh, man, this team is winning the Stanley Cup, and they're doing so because Rutherford and company, I think we're saying that too much, okay? We should say Allvin and company are eager to pull the trigger quick, especially if the Canucks go 4-0-1 on this homestand, okay? If the Vancouver Canucks have a very successful homestand here, Trevor Beggs, I guarantee Patrick Allvin is making a trade for a big-time player. Woo. And I'm curious to see who you think that guy is. Okay, we talked a lot about Jake Guentzel. Who else could you see the Vancouver Canucks bringing in, okay?
Well, I think Allvin and Rutherford have said this already, right? But it's going to be a top 6 forward now. Before the Lauder line was reunited, I was pretty convinced I was going to be a top 6 winger, and I think the rest of the fan base was as well, because you got Pettersson and Miller down the middle, Suter and Bluger, playing above their standard in the bottom 6. It's like you don't really need another guy as a centerman. But now things have kind of changed, right? And now you have Pettersson, Miller in the top line. Now your center depth is looking thin. So I do feel like at this point, the Canucks are probably going to try and target a center and target one, with some experience, with some grit. And that's why, we brought up time and time again. To me, Boone Jenner's the perfect target. I think we'll kind of maybe do a deep dive on him next week because to me, he is the perfect trade deadline target for your Vancouver Canucks. But some other guys too that I have my eye on because, we do live in a cap crunch world. Most teams are up against the cap. The Canucks, unless they trade Kuzmenko, which could happen, they're going to be in a bit of a cap bind. So that makes a guy like Sean Monahan seem like a pretty realistic target. Playing pretty well for the Montreal Canadiens, kind of revitalized his career after really falling off a cliff in Calgary. I think he can do it at both ends of the ice. He can win faceoffs. He can kill penalties. He's been. I know people don't like Sean Monahan. Not the
bro, because we got
name.
Pius Suter. We got Pius Suter, bro. How much is an upgrade of Sean Monahan over Pius Suter? Like +1 overall, +2 overall?
I think this team values a bit of grit and size. And not to say Sean Monahan's the grittiest player, but he's a bit grittier than Pius Suter is for sure.
Man, oh man, I don't know. Sean Monahan, it's not about him not being sexy enough. I just feel as if the Canucks are going to bring anyone in, again, the Canucks go 4-0-1 on this homestand. I think you're going to go through some of the history of Jim Rutherford and company, bringing in people early, blah, blah, blah. I think after this homestand, they're going to bring someone in big time, Mr. Big Time, and that big time player is not Sean Monahan, okay? Because, again, you got Pius Suter. You got Teddy Bluger. I don't think maybe they do it because it won't cost them so much, but I don't know if that really moves the needle. And if you're going to bring anyone else into the mix, okay, we're talking about the chemistry of this room. We're talking about the depth doing the most. Do you really want to sacrifice maybe, I don't know, shaking up the mojo for Sean Monahan?
I mean, again, I think it's going to be a low acquisition cost. I think that's part of it as well, right? Like, you're just trying to improve the depth of this team. Sean Monahan doesn't have to come into this team and play 18 minutes a night, but what he would do is improve the center depth, right? And again, I think he can play all over the ice as well. So maybe Sean Monahan's even your third line center, right? Maybe Pius Suter keeps doing it. Maybe they bump JT Miller off the top line. Maybe they spit up Pettersson and Miller. Like, there's options for the Canucks, right? And that's kind of the beauty of having a deep team like your Vancouver Canucks, even though most people didn't see it coming. So to me, I think Sean Monahan is just a good, unsexy target, right? Like, no one's really drooling or, getting their hockey boners up over Sean Monahan. But
I want it sexy. I only want it sexy, bro. I want it sexy, okay? Like, do you feel like it's impossible for the Vancouver Canucks, again, if they're picking up a center, I don't want them to pick up a 83 overall guy. Just bump Pius Suter down the lineup. Have Teddy Bluger and Pius Suter be your 3C and your 4C. Bring someone else into your second C. And is that person, or is it possible for that person to be Elias Lindholm? Like, how come we're not talking about that a lot here?
To me, like, you look at Elias Lindholm's numbers, you look at Sean Monahan's numbers, they're pretty similar this year. Now, Elias Lindholm, I think one of the benefits is he's one of the best faceoff guys in the league. I believe he's second overall in the NHL in terms of faceoff wins, top 10 in faceoff percentage, but he's definitely having a down year, right? Like, I think, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think both him and Monahan are sub 30 points this season, if I'm not mistaken, but kind of pushed towards that 30-point mark. So Elias Lindholm to me is like pretty much maybe a bit sexier per se than Sean Monahan, but they're very similar players in my opinion.
Whoa, come on, man. I think Lindholm and Calgary, it's just different out there. I think if you put them on a good team, a really good team, it could be really, really serious business for the Vancouver Canucks. So because then you got options in your top six. Like, I'm not really worried about the options in the bottom six. I'm a big fan of Sam Lafferty, okay? I'm a big fan of Niels Höglander down there. I'm a big fan of Teddy Bluger. I'm a big fan of the third line, Garland and Joshua, okay? Like, let's push the needle in the top six. Let's do it. Anywho, we got Aaron Gray, okay? The mayor of Surrey agreeing with Trevor, okay? These guys must be best friends or something. Sean Monahan is the answer in my books, as we don't have to sell the farm to get him. Dude, I'm not saying sell the farm for Elias Lindholm. I'm not. I don't think he's going to require, I don't know, like Tom Willander, Jonathan Lekaramaki, Jake Guentzel type of package. Hi, Everly. Legend. Hi.
Yeah, I agree with you. Aaron is a champ for sure, man. Aaron and I are going to be ball hockey champions soon here. So, yeah, I mean, you want some sexy names? I'll tell you what. If you want a sexy name, I think Joel Eriksson is one that's been floated around a little bit. That's a guy who, if Minnesota truly wants to rebuild and get a haul for a guy who's a valuable player, I do think that Joel Eriksson could fit the bill. If you want another sexy name, I don't know if this is the sexiest name, but it certainly would fit a guy who's got a lot of playoff experience. It'd be Ryan O'Reilly. Ryan O'Reilly in Nashville, really playing like a top line center this year. And some of the data points to the fact that he probably should have more points, even though he's, a bona fide number one center right now in Nashville. Now, he's been floated in trade rumors before. Nashville just signed the guy. I don't know if they're being a rush to trade him. But that being said, this is not a team that's winning the Stanley Cup, right? I mean, they brought in guys to kind of set the culture. But you look at that team right now, they're pushing for a playoff spot. This again, under David Poile, but in the past, they were pushing for a playoff spot and sold, right? I think it's a smart organization, even though it's different management with Barry Trotz there. I do wonder if they would trade a guy like Ryan O'Reilly at the deadline, considering that they're just nothing more than a bubble team.
He signed a 2-year deal, right? or something like that.
I think it was
3?
4 years,
4
18
years?
million.
Dude, come on, get out of. I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't even know if Ryan O'Reilly would want to come back to Canada. I don't even want Ryan O'Reilly. Remember, I know it's early in the morning, Trevor Beggs, but we cannot forget about Ryan O'Reilly's comments about playing in Toronto, okay? I don't want no weak-minded people playing on this roster, okay? It's just the truth. That's not a shot at Ryan O'Reilly. That is a big shot at Ryan O'Reilly, but he's the one that opened his mouth and complained about playing in Toronto, okay? It's different. It's different, I get it. But keep your mouth shut, okay? West Coast, best coast of Canada, it's tough to play out here too. Look at Jimmy Canuck, a.k.a. Harpoon. O'Reilly is not worth it. Of course, that being said, he's saying Boone Jenner would be a great fit with Kuzmenko and Mikheyev. I think Trevor wants to talk more about Boone Jenner next week, but maybe you can touch on him for like 5 seconds, 10 seconds now, because we've been going through a couple names here. Monahan, Lindholm, Ryan O'Reilly came up, blah, blah, blah. The more and more I think about it, I don't know, Boone Jenner might be that guy. He might be that guy that's like a mid-cost, not a low cost. You don't have to sell the farm to get him, but that's a fit.
Yeah. Again, he'd be my number one target if I was running the show there for your Vancouver Canucks. And one of the reasons I like him is he can do a bit of it all. He's been on power play, he's been on penalty kill. He's certainly a physical player. He's not a great playmaker, but that's why, to a commenter's point there, you could pair him with a guy like Kuzmenko and that could work, right? Because Boone Jenner tends to score more than he does set up guys. I think it would benefit him to play with the playmaker. And I know Kuzmenko last year was scoring goals. Kuzmenko was scoring goals. Not necessarily playmaking as much, but we've seen it. If you watch the games, you know that Kuzmenko, he's a sublime playmaker. I think you give him a guy like Boone Jenner to play with. I certainly think that that would be a boost to both the Canucks forward group and to Kuzmenko as well.
What a change of pace for us as fans and us as onlookers. I don't want to say analysts or what's the word, reporters of the Vancouver Canucks, but we're all over the place when it comes to what type of players this team needs. And based on what happened on the previous road trip, the one that we just came off of, and the lotto line being a thing, man, oh man, the fact that we're actually talking about a number 2 center being the guy that they need to bring into this team is, I wouldn't say alarming, but it's been such a crazy year. Crazy year. Let's read this comment before we get to the other side. Actually, I know, Trevor, do you have any stats on Jim Rutherford trading early? Like, is there a reason why we think? Okay, so let me read this comment. Okay, the Canucks would still need to clear cap space for Monahan. So a plausible hockey trade would be Monahan plus a right-handed Savard for Kuzmenko and Sheldon Dries in case Zadorov and Myers walk as free agents. I don't know if like Zadorov walks as a free agent. I think they just let him go because I think that guy wants way too much. Anywho, Trevor, a brief history lesson on Rutherford, Allvin, and co trading a little early. Okay, not waiting till that 12 o'clock deadline sometime in March.
Yeah, so I'll go way back in the time machine in 2006, right? So Rutherford actually did a bit of both here, but his 2 big deadline acquisitions for the Carolina Hurricanes before they won the Cup in 2006 were Doug Weight and Mark Recchi. Now, Mark Recchi was acquired on deadline day, but Doug Weight was acquired more than a month prior to the trade deadline, back in late January of 2006. So what's the date today? It's January 18th. The trade deadline, I believe, is Friday, March 8th, right? So we're about a month and a half out. I wouldn't be shocked if the Canucks make a move here in the next week or two, because that's been the history of Jim Rutherford. I think that's where the NHL is trending. I think if the Canucks see a player they like, and Kyle, you mentioned at the top of the show, they play well in this homestand. They start proving things right, proving that they're worth adding a player to this team. I could see them making a move. So that's one example. I'll bring up 2016, Carl Hagelin, a big part of the HBK line. He was acquired over a month before the deadline as well. Justin Schultz 2 days before the deadline. Back in 2017, Ron Hainsey was the big addition. Not a sexy name, but did a lot for that Pittsburgh Penguins blue line in 2017 when they won the Cup. He was acquired a week before the deadline. Other big trades, he acquired Bukestad and McCann 25 days before the deadline in 2019. Jason Sucker was the big move in 2020, acquired him 2 weeks before the deadline. This is a management regime in Vancouver that seems to always get their work done early. And again, that's the way the NHL is trending now, so I wouldn't expect anything different this time around.
Man, oh man, this homestand is really, really important. Again, that interview between Ian McIntyre, Sportsnet, and Patrick Allvin. Patrick Allvin, I'm paraphrasing, but he pretty much saying, like, I'm ready to do something. I just want to see more of what I'm seeing right now. And I think that could only That could mean a lot of things. Like maybe he's looking for another like 10, 15 game stretch. But in my opinion, I think if the Canucks dominate on this homestand and then there's that all-star break and there's a lot of talking and downtime in the NHL, but again, talking between the executives, I would not be surprised if the Vancouver Canucks make a big trade fairly soon. Let us know more of your opinions regarding any trade options for the Vancouver Canucks and trade packages in the comments below or in the live chat right now. Beggsy, you got to give us a shout out, okay? Well, I guess you got to give our friendship a shout out. We've been doing this every day for a long time. It's the morning. We grinding. And also, you got to give a shout out to the people helping us out on Locked On Canucks.
All right, let's on the other side, let's talk about Pettersson-Miller-Boeser. I know, Kyle, you talked about them a lot. Me, not so much, because you've been doing more work here, recording more than me here on Locked On Canucks. But I wrote recently about Pettersson-Miller and Boeser and how they compare to other great forward trios in Canucks history. So let's talk about that on the other side. But first, I got to shout out Sleeper. We're at the halfway point of the NHL season, and Canucks fans, you cheer for the best goddamn team in the NHL. If you want to be the best of something else, make sure you try playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is my number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you could win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Elias Pettersson, Brock Boeser, or JT Miller will record more or less in their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Canucks fans. You could win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
Boom, bam. Bet on the Packers, man. I'm telling you. We back on Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is Trevor Beggs and company. Man, oh man, talking more and more about the Vancouver Canucks. The 5-game homestand starts tonight against Arizona. I assume the Arizona Coyotes just love leaving home, man. I know they play in front of like 5,000 fans, and it could be nostalgic, but man, going to a Canadian market to play hockey games must mean the world to them, for real.
Oh yeah, you think so, man? You think so? And sorry, I got distracted there. I got kids jumping in here, man. Working from home ain't what it used to be, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I was actually supposed to cover this Arizona game tonight, but I'm flying to Calgary later, man. So again, Kyle Bowen, I'm ditching you, buddy. I might be ditching you for tomorrow's show too, but we'll see how it goes. See if I can get some time away out on a vacation in beautiful Calgary, Alberta.
It is what it is, man. It's all good, man. I'm here for you. You're here for me. We'll get it done. And the Canucks are doing most of the work, man. As long as they keep winning, it's a fun gig, man. Talking to the people about the Vancouver Canucks. I see a lot of comments coming in regarding some trade proposals. Let's talk about more of those in about like 5 or 6 minutes, because Trevor kind of wants to break down this. I don't want to say this theory. It's more of a question. Are you saying this, that the lotto line may be the best line in Canucks history?
Well, the way I looked at it was that they might be the best forward trio in Canucks history. So I got thinking about this about a week after the lotto line was reunited, and they started lighting it up, obviously, right? Oh my goodness. So the lotto line again, they were tiring up there, and you look at the point pace right now. That line is on pace for over 300 points combined. When I wrote this article, and not much has changed since. Miller was on pace for 113 points, Pettersson 111, and Boeser 89 points. Like, that's unreal stuff from 3 forwards. So what I did was went through the 6 highest scoring forward duos or forward trios in Canucks history. Let's toss out 3 of them because I had Smil Gerdine, Rhoda, Patrick Sundstrom, Tony Tanti, and Thomas Gerdine, Bure, Ronning, and Courtnall, and even McGillney, Linden, and Ronning. Okay, like those 4 trios were good, but nowhere near the lotto line of what they produce. So to me, it comes down to 3 groups. It's Pettersson-Miller-Boeser, Sedin Kessler, or the West Coast Express. And my question to you, Kyle, is who is the best forward trio in Canucks history?
Like you're just not the line. You're
I'm
just
not talking
about
about lines. I'm just talking about 3 forwards who were dominating in one Canucks season, not necessarily in line mates. Because you
Damn,
look at the Sedins and Burrows, like, he was good, but he wasn't pushing like 80, 90 points a season, you know? Whereas
Yeah.
Kessler was, pushing 80 points.
He had that 40-goal season, right, Kessler? Honestly, man, it's not about me just living in the moment as well. Like my answer is not based on recency bias, but it is Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, and Brock Boeser. Brock Boeser may hit 50 goals. At minimum, he's going to hit 40. And then we're going to see numbers from JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. And I think this is going to continue for a couple more years that the other guys didn't put up. Like, I know, again, Henrik Sedin had like 111 points or something like that, 112 points. When he won 112 points, right? JT Miller, the second best player on the team, forward on the team, is going to surpass that, possibly. And Pettersson is. What we're seeing right now is the best version of the Vancouver Canucks outside of them not having any playoff experience. So we're going to learn a lot in April and May. That's when, we kind of can put that in cement, right? Say that strongly. But man, oh man, like it's crazy, man. The more and more I think about it, man, the Vancouver Canucks, man, their history, we've had a lot of all-stars and a lot of superstars, but not a lot of playoff success. So I feel like all they have to do is just win a couple rounds early on in their playoff careers, and they're going to be known as the best players in team history. Like, remember how I keep saying this? Like, yo, if this core wins the Stanley Cup, I'm not going to say we're going to forget about the West Coast Express or the Sedins, but they're going to fall down the pecking order.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that, all they have to do is win a couple rounds. I mean, easier said than done, but that's what it hinges on, right? Is playoff success.
Yeah.
But when I look at even the regular season statistics, I would still take Sedin, Kessler out of the 3 I mentioned between West Coast Express, Sedin, Kessler, and the Lotto line. And, the reason I'm doing that is a couple reasons. Now, I think Sedin, Kessler, those 3 were all pretty good 200-foot players. Even the Sedins, I know they're getting a big chunk of offensive zone starts, but very, very smart hockey players. And if you just, they're scoring by era, I did it this way. So I looked at the 2009-2010 season. So Henrik wins the Art Ross that year, right, with 112 points. Daniel, if he didn't miss the first 20 games of the season due to injury, was on pace for 114 points. He had 85 points in 3 games.
I forgot about that.
Kessler, who had 75 points that season, and both Sedins like pushing 115 points in an era where scoring was not nowhere near, but wasn't what it was today. So I would still take that trio. But again, we're talking about this debate kind of halfway through the season here. Always curious what the commenters think. So again, interact with us. But I would take Sedin, Kessler over the Lotto line at this point. But it's obviously to be determined.
Yeah, playoff success determines everything. But man, oh man, there's something that's telling my heart that this is, again, the best version of the Vancouver Canucks that we're not ever going to see, but we've seen. It's the start. It really is the start of something grand. And I can't wait to see more. Oh, okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, a big X factor, right? The Canucks have had great forward trios before, as we've mentioned, but they never had a guy like Quinn Hughes. And
makes it easier.
That's a big difference maker.
Okay. I see what you did there. You're saying that our big 3 right now just being helped out by that, whereas before the best that the Sedins and Kessler had was Christian Ehrhoff.
Yeah. And not to mention Philip Hronek. You've said it before on the show. He might be the second best defenseman in Canucks history.
He is, man.
Maybe a bit of a bold take, but there's merit there.
We're going to do an episode on this too. Okay, the Big 6. The Vancouver Canucks are stacked right now at the top. They really are, but compared to other teams. But just in general, like, you compare the Big 6 to the best Big 6 that the Canucks have ever had, it's not even close.
Yeah.
It's not even close. Because remember, when the West Coast Express was happening, the Sedins just weren't. They were putting up Teddy Bluger numbers,
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, I would still take Lotto line over West Coast Express. Even though you adjust what the West Coast Express did by era, they're pretty much on pace with the Lotto line did. But the West Coast Express, I don't think could play defense. I think, Miller and Pettersson are kind of in that Selke conversation. And Boeser's pretty good at playing defense. The West Coast Express were not known as being good defense players.
I don't know if Miller. I don't know if Miller's in the Selke conversation anymore. I think he's like.
I think probably not anymore. 30? But that's based
30?
on numbers. I think that's based on numbers more than what you and I are seeing on the ice. Now he's had some egregious turnovers. We kind of touched on that this week. Typical JT Miller stuff. But overall, going head to head against the other team's best lines and being successful. I think he belongs in that conversation. He's not going to win it, but I think he does belong in that conversation.
Facts, facts. Anyways, Locked On Canucks, Kyle Bauer, Trevor Beggs. Hit the like button, subscribe. If you're listening to this, leave us a good review. It really helps us out. I'm trying to take my girl out to Cactus Club every 6th Wednesday, okay? It's the effort that counts. And I know Trevor's trying to do the same thing, okay? Pay for some babysitting and, take his girl out to the keg, okay? Hit the like button, subscribe, leave us a review. On the other side, let's just read some of these comments, okay? More trade offers coming through from the smartest fans in the world on Locked On Canucks. But first, we got to shout out somebody. Who's that somebody? Trevor, tell us.
All right, let's shout out eBay Motors before we wrap up here on Locked On Canucks. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, baby. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Boom, bam, yo. I don't got to go to eBay Motors yet. I got that Honda Civic. You know what I'm saying? That is reliable. We back on Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bauer. That right there is Trevor Beggs. Shout out to eBay Motors doing the most and supporting us on every episode pretty much of Locked On Canucks. Man, oh man, the people are going nuts, man. They're going nuts, man. So nuts that I'm going to ignore Trevor Beggs. I'm not going to ask him how he's doing because we don't got the time, man. I want to go straight into this because a lot's going on, man. I think the Canuck fans in general are super excited and they understand that there could be something special here, but changes have to be made, especially with the second line and Kuzmenko, man, a big part of that question mark. Do the Canucks need to trade Kuzmenko just for cap space, get a 3rd round pick, a 2nd round pick, and just flip that asset for somebody else? That's an option, right?
It's an option for sure. I'm always hesitant to sell low on a player, but I just think things have changed based on where the Canucks are. I think you can afford to be aggressive at a time like this, and Kuzmenko clearly doesn't fit in with Rick Tocchet and the plans here. If you can flip Kuzmenko and free up the cap space, especially in a season like this where this might be the last year where everyone is pushed up against it, right? If you can free that cap space and go acquire, a bona fide second line center, a Joel Eriksson-Ek, a Boone Jenner, or get another top 4 defenseman, then it makes it pretty palatable that you can trade this guy.
Here's the argument, though. You bring in Boone Jenner to solidify your second line, but who's he going to play with? Aren't we getting somebody in the second line to keep the Lotto line together? You know what I'm saying? And don't you want somebody with some sort of skill? So here's my theory, okay? I want to keep Kuzmenko just to see if he can find his game, right? Because I feel like pairing him up with somebody else other than Pius Suter may be a bit of an X factor, okay, for the Vancouver Canucks. Maybe it's HBK. We got the Teddy Bluger line, but maybe it's on par with that when it comes to production, right? But let's say they do this, because I could see this. The Ducks are rebuilding, right? Kuzmenko, throw in something else. I don't know. Maybe get Vatrano. What's his name? Frank?
Frank Vatrano. Frank the Tank. Frank Vatrano.
Frank the Tank, okay? You make that trade, and then you get Boone Jenner. And then you got Frank and Boone playing on your second line with Ilya Mikheyev.
That's pretty lethal, man. Yeah, those guys are great players. So
there you go.
Yeah, you gotta love it, man.
How about this? Okay, Sean Monahan. This is from Raymond. He's been a top 6 center before in his prime at worst. Monahan could be a 3rd line center. Okay, we don't need a 3rd line center. We got Teddy Bluger. We also got Pius Suter. I don't want Sean Monahan. Okay, come on. Let's lean into what our guys have done for us, and that's Teddy Bluger, Pius Suter, and sometimes Sam Lafferty down the middle. Okay. How about this? Callum Sandu, Callum Dollywall, Callum Baines, saying just pick up Corey Perry. I don't think that's going to happen.
Just say no. Do not bring that toxic energy into the Canucks locker room, man. I'm sure everyone's heard it. I've heard the rumblings, not the BS Bedard ones, but the rumblings on what actually happened. I don't need to gossip about it here.
That's
on
another
Locked On
episode.
Canucks, but
Another episode.
Maybe on All Week with Kyle Bowden, we'll talk about it.
Dude,
the morning practice. But yeah, don't bring that toxic energy into the locker room. The Canucks don't need that.
Dude, the Oilers are gonna get Corey Perry. You know Connor McDavid, right? He's kind of like Tom Brady minus the championships. He's gonna do whatever it takes to win a championship. Like he was the first one. He picked up Evander Kane at the airport. He's probably gonna drive all the way to wherever Corey Perry is and drive him back to Edmonton. That being said, dude, Connor McDavid, if he's in Edmonton this whole time, he's gonna end up being the Dan Marino of the NHL. Okay, that's just the truth. It's just the truth. Though, what else do we got here? We got any other trade offers going on here? Do you see anything?
Maybe I'm not right now, but maybe while you're doing that, I'll give a little pregame prophecy for tonight. Okay. So again, the Arizona Coyotes coming to town. The second home game of the season. It's been a long time since the Canucks were at home after that fantastic 7-game road trip. Look, I could see the Canucks coming out a bit tired here. First game after a homestand, first game on the homestand after a long road trip. I could see them coming out sluggish, maybe giving up the lead. I'm going to say it's a close one tonight. If I was betting on FanDuel, I would not be picking the Canucks -1.5, which is, what that puck line would be. I'm going to say this is a 1-goal game, but Canucks eke it out. Let's say 3-1 win, but with an empty net goal.
Wow.
Connor Ingram has been great. He's expected to start tonight from what I'm reading. Thatcher Demko, he was our second go to the week in terms of go to the week last week. So I think I got two good goaltenders here. I see a low scoring game. I don't see in the past. I know I covered the Canucks thumping the Coyotes 7-1 or whatever it was in March of 2022. So we've seen some bad Coyotes performances, but this is a better Coyotes team. So I think it's a big close game tonight.
Do you think Allvin and company went down to the dressing room and kind of told the dressing room that, if you guys keep killing it during January and early February, we'll bring you guys some help? Do you think there's any of that language? Or is that kind of dangerous because you don't want to scare some of the players on the team that they might not be there?
I see this management regime being more methodical. I don't really see them as a going down to the dressing room type of group, but that's a great question. I would lean no, but I could see it being plausible.
Okay, a couple more comments before we get out of here. Harpoon, a.k.a. Jimmy, had a good one, man. I think he brought up the fact that even though he likes Silovs, he wouldn't mind trading him in a package for Boone Jenner. Columbus needs goaltending, and we got Casey DeSmith. You know what I'm saying? This guy's thinking, bro. This guy's thinking. And we got the other guy, Talopilo, Talopolsky.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah.
I would actually argue that, from when I've watched Silovs this season, he's been really hot and cold. I don't think he's been great. I would be fine selling high on Silovs. Like I said, Demko's going to be your goalie for hopefully a long time, right? At least that's the plan. So, I wouldn't be.
I could see that happening.
I wouldn't be bummed at all. Yeah.
Wow, dude. Look at how the things have changed, man. One more. Love Kuzi and Mikheyev, but I don't see them on a second line for a cup-winning team. Things are different. The Vancouver Canucks are different, okay? I think if you prioritize keeping the Lotto line together, that doesn't mean you keep the Lotto line together forever. There's going to be spurts where you kind of split it out or split them up and kind of gain depth that way once in a while, but having that dynamic top line on your team is, and if they're going, let's say they got momentum on their side, they're good for what? 1.5 goals a game at minimum. You get what I'm saying? And that could be the difference in a playoff series when you have Thatcher, Demko, and net. It's just the truth, okay? How about Duck, okay? This is the last comment. Why is there cheese on your head? Go Pack Go. Big game on Saturday. NFC divisional round. Jordan Love, the savior of the world, up against the 49ers. I'm stoked. I'm loyal. And man, what a sports weekend, okay? Saturday got the Maple Leafs in Vancouver playing at 4 o'clock. I get it. But come on, can we stop stroking these guys off? Can we have a 7 o'clock game against the Maple Leafs? Because again, they're playing at 4 o'clock. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
That's lame, dude. Come on, man. Anyways, Kyle Bowden, Trevor Beggs, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Your Canucks every day, home of the West Coast Bias. Shout out to the Don't Doze Art Lab for making this all possible. Also, shout out to the Locked On Podcast Network for trusting us. And shout out to the people, man. You make this even more possible. And we're just blessed to be talking to you, living the dream. And I'll see you tonight on the postgame show, unless I get a call from my girlfriend. Why are you laughing?
Yeah, Locked on Canucks. Oh, I was just gonna say, well, you never know what's gonna happen, right? Never know.
Yeah.
I hope my flight takes off. My flight's supposed to leave at 8:40, but it was freezing rain and whatnot. So, hey, one love to everyone. Stay safe out there, whether you're driving. And thanks for listening, whether you're an everyday or an occasional listener, a first-time listener, a new subscriber, or one of you who join us here on the live feed. We love each and every one of you and your families and your dogs too. You are what makes Locked On Canucks happen. We're also the home of saying F the Maple Leafs, man, and F those 4 p.m. starts, man. That's a bunch of Eastern BS, man. Unbelievable.
On, man.
Who knows, Kyle, if I'll be recording with you Friday and Monday. I'm back on Monday, so definitely back on Tuesday. Hopefully I can sneak one in with you before then. But one topic I have in my mind, and we kind of talked with the Lotto line towards the end of the episode, is the Lotto line the best line in hockey right now? And I think we will look at some of the other good lines in hockey, because there's a couple other ones on my mind that are pretty damn good. I know we kind of live in a bubble in Vancouver sometimes, but that's something we'll talk about on another episode of Locked On Canucks. Also going to touch on all the rumors, all the games, everything you need to know about your Vancouver Canucks. I might even have the boss man, Rob Williams, on next week.
Okay.
So maybe check that out as well. But for now, I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Kyle Bound, and you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
Look at this guy cheering for the Niners, man. Buddy, you're lucky you're a Canucks fan, okay? Give us a 5-star review on all those podcasting platforms. Peace out. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.